Hello and welcome to Tech 24. I'm Eric Olander in for Rebecca Bowering. Today on the show, this man is not a Syrian lesbian. Even though he fooled everyone for years, we'll look at the controversial question of online identity. And we'll take a look at Acer's newest tablet running Windows 7. It's priced the same as the iPad, but is it a worthy challenger? Does the name Tom McMaster sound familiar? He's an American guy, about 40 years old, married. He was born in Virginia, went to school in Atlanta, and now a graduate student in Scotland. Well, if the name Tom McMaster isn't familiar, maybe his blog, A Gay Girl in Damascus, is. Now, Tom has been writing this blog for years, mischaracterizing and misrepresenting himself, of course, as Amina Araf, who is the gay girl in Damascus. Now, the problem is that over the past 6 or 7 weeks, there's been growing concern and growing fear that Amina had been arrested. And in the end, Amina had been revealed as a fake. Now, after all of this, Tom says he's deeply sorry for misrepresenting himself.
Regret that, a lot of people feel that I led them on. I regret, and yes, I regret that, quite a number of people are seeing my hoax as distracting from real news, real stories about Syria, and real concerns of real, actual on-the-ground bloggers where people will doubt their veracity.
So all of this now raises the question of online identities, and how can we trust all those tweets and blogs and Facebook pages that we're reading every day? So to get some perspective on this, I'm joined by Lorena Galliot from our Observers Unit, which is the citizen journalism project that we have here at France 24. And Lorena, what you do every day is sift through social media, determining who's real, who's not, what information's good. Why is this question of online identity today so important?
Well, it's become a very, very big issue because the internet has really allowed the explosion of anonymity. It's become so much easier now to create a blog with a fake name or to even just comment on an article, and most people do without giving your real name and under the mask of anonymity.
Now, anonymity in this case is not necessarily a good thing, and what we heard and saw from McMaster is not a good thing. But there are some cases where anonymity actually is a good thing, is a positive.
There are cases where it's absolutely necessary. There may be cases where journalists, for example, need to investigate under the cover of anonymity, and there may also be the cases, and this is what we see most often in our team, in countries where people run a grave danger by expressing their voices. The only way they can speak is without giving their names. And we actually have some of our most trusted, what we call observers, people who collaborate with us and give us their account of events and their photos and videos. Sometimes they have their real identity profile on our site, but they also have a fake one, because there are times where the issue is so sensitive that they just cannot speak under their real name.
So what are some of the techniques that you use on the Observer's desk and that other professional journalists use to verify the identities of people online?
Well, in the cases where we come across a web user who's giving interesting information but is not revealing his name, for us it's extremely important. We have to establish direct contact with that person before we can begin to trust him as we would trust our observers. And that means a direct webcam interview, even if it's just for us, most of the time it is, so that we know that the person we're speaking to is credible. And where this is fake is that in the case of Amina Araf, the author had been corresponding with journalists, but only through email, so no one ever got to hear Amina Araf's voice. And that, as a journalist, you might begin to ask yourself the question, is there something fishy going on here?
Very quickly, before we're running out of time here, what is something that our viewers and our listeners can do to verify it? Obviously, they can't call everybody, and so what does the average web user do?
Well, the best thing to do is to check if you have more than one source corroborating the same story or going in the same direction. Because a lot of times, if there is a hoax or if there is a misrepresentation, it's actually unveiled online. This happened with Amina Araf. Other bloggers unmasked the subterfuge. And if you take the time to look at other sources and corroborate them, that's your best bet to make sure that you're not following a misrepresentation.
Great. Lorena Galliot from our Observers Desk, thank you so much for joining us today. And of course, if you want to follow more of Lorena's work, you can find it at observers.france24.com. That's observers.france24.com. Time now for our gadget segment, and this is the Acer Iconia W500 tablet. Now, it doesn't look like a tablet on the surface, doesn't have a shiny screen. This is something that's relatively new, and this is one of the reasons I was excited to take a look this week at the Iconia, is because it's really a hybrid product. It's really the first of the hybrid generation of tablets we're seeing. On the one hand, it's a netbook, and on the other hand, it's a tablet with a full keyboard. Now, the keyboard breaks away, so you can just look at the tablet. Now, another interesting thing about this tablet is the fact that it runs Windows operating system. This is the Windows 7 tablet. First one that I've seen with it. Now, Windows officially does not have a tablet operating system, so it's not like Android or iOS. And that's what makes this interesting. So on the one hand, the software, in my opinion, after using it, still not ready for prime time. But if you're a Windows user, you're going to feel very comfortable in this environment. The other big problem with the Windows tablet, number of apps in their marketplace is still relatively small. In fact, it's incredibly small compared to both the Android and the Apple marketplaces for various apps. Now, the video runs on this very, very well. Images load very quickly. The user interface and the navigation is somewhat difficult to get around, but at the end of the day, the biggest problem with this, it's weight. It's a really heavy tablet. Now, on top of this, for another 100 euros, you're going to add on to this, and more weight, it gets very, very heavy to carry around. The other big problem for me on this one is, of course, the price. This is 499 euros plus 100 euros for the keyboard, so you're looking at 599 euros. Now, compare that to a 499 iPad, and you've got all those great apps, you've got a great experience, you've got an operating system that's been built and it's been refined, and really, it's not an even close comparison for me. Stay with the iPad until we see a better version of Windows come out, a better version of Android, and more Android, and I think Android, not honeycomb, but ice cream will be the next version of Android, and that's probably going to be the first major challenger for the iPad. So that'll do it for here. My recommendation on this is to hold off a little bit more. We still haven't seen a real iPad killer yet, or an iPad competitor, but if you like the functionality of a tablet, you like the functionality of Windows, then this may be for you, but you might want to wait for the next generation and the next upgrade for that. And that'll do it for this edition of Tech 24. I'm Eric Olander in Paris. We leave you today with a video that's an update to the old adage, loose lips sink ships. Of course, that was a World War II adage that discouraged people from talking about in the military their whereabouts and what they were doing to share secrets. Now it's the British Defense Ministry has updated it for the social media era with this YouTube video they published to discourage family members from talking about their children's and their relatives' whereabouts in the services. Thanks for watching.
Here we are.